Welcome back to Vital Signs. I am here with our guest expert, Brian Fetzer, co-founder and president of Iron Faith Nutrition. He has 28 years of experience in collegiate sports as a coach and as a professional. And I want to dive right in because we've talked before about the fundamentals of nutrition. We talked about eating clean, getting your nutrition from unprocessed foods. We overcame misconceptions around supplementation, and we talked a little bit about timing. But now I wanted to kind of shift gears and talk to you about how do we optimize our athletic performance through nutrition? What would be that 1, 2, 3 hit punch that gives us that edge so that we can get to that next level?
Well, being consistent is one thing, and making sure you're eating on a regular basis. If you're just, doing this typical, and I'll go back to high school, college, individuals, but really people in the workforce that, you're rushing out the door late, you're skipping breakfast. It's like, hey, let me stop by some fast food place to grab X, Y, or Z that you don't need in your system. Or, hey, I can just wait and have my coffee. Studies show coffee's been great for you, but that can't be your food source. That can be an additive to it. Making sure that you're prepared, being prepared on a regular basis. I laugh. My wife, she's gotten in the habit of having things put together. So when she walks out the door, she's on the road a lot, that she has a plethora of options during the day. Snacking is not a bad thing. Getting an apple, the whole adage, an apple a day to keep a doctor away. That's a real life, statement, because it is the qualities of in an apple, the pectin, all of the nutrients are in there. You can have that and have it as a snack. So really, if you're preparing your day, you have to make sure that you're having food sources. And I say food sources and not just, food, because like I said, processed food, not so good for you, but have food sources throughout the day as options, so you can continually have something in your system. Super important.
And so you're talking about meal prep and planning. And so that goes into what happens before we even start our day. So talk to me a little bit about, I'm a busy mom, I am a professional, and I've got a high school athlete. What are the things that I need to consider for my athletes pre and post workout meals because I'm sending them off to school. And we all know school lunches are not optimized for sports nutrition.
They are not. I heard it one time and it resonated with me so much, is make sure you eat the rainbow. You want a variety of foods of different colors in your diet, in your palate all the time, because of the fact that you get into some different sources. You don't want to just say, hey, this is all eaten. And I know today kids are pickier than ever on what they want to eat. So they like to tend to, hey, this is what I like, or this is quick and this is easy. Have a variety of foods in there and make sure that you're getting enough protein. Protein is probably the individual item that individuals have, the least amount of, and they need the most of it, especially for growing individuals, athletes that want to gain muscle mass, that they want to recover, getting fish, getting meats, getting chicken, getting some kind of dairy in your system. I said in the previous segment, eggs. I mean, they are wonderful. They're like a little multivitamin in one, but also getting good fats in your diet. Beef tallow. Knowing what you're getting your source of fat from. You had mentioned before avocados, amazing source of fat. Your ghee, your butters, grass-fed butters, not margarines. You want to avoid margarines, but getting grass-fed, that's a key term too. And I know I just kind of like shifted off of one subject to another, but the labeling of foods can also be very misconceiving. Just because it says natural on it means nothing. Just because it says organic on it doesn't really mean anything. If you know stuff about eggs as an example, and this is something that you got to educate yourself as a parent and as a student, as an athlete, as an adult, you've got to understand labeling of food is more to get you to buy it than necessarily is it good for you. And that is a huge thing. Because if you look at eggs, we'll use eggs as an example. Pasture raised is great. Organic means very little. cage free, that just means that they're not in an individual cage. So, I mean, when you know those kind of things, it helps your selection a lot better.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the big things that I always talked with the parents, I'm a physical therapist by trade. I was 20 years in sports medicine. And one of the things I always talk to them about, because, and I want to ask you about this, when an athlete is injured, especially in high school or collegiate specifically girls more so than boys, I saw this with, but it happens with boys as well. They would want to cut back their nutrition, but rehab and recovery from an ACL or whatever that injury might be requires even more protein and vitamins and minerals. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because they're so afraid that they're going to gain weight, or they're worried about, I'm not training, so I can't eat as much. And they're worried about how they look as opposed to fueling their recovery from an injury. Can you speak a little bit to that, and what kind of nutritional strategies should we be focusing upon if we have an injury?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things, if you see a demise in performance, and performance are going down, or not, you're not performing optimally, look to two things: your recovery and your sleep. And your recovery, really, sleep is part of your recovery. And the recovery process is, what are you doing outside of the realm of your competition or outside the realm of your training? And nutrition plays a massive, massive role in that. Again, we harped on proteins, getting a protein source in there, getting good fats, not relying on sugars, staying away from sugars. Sugars are not a good thing. They give you that quick energy boost potentially, but they give you a huge crash. And that's what you want to avoid. With the type of foods, getting fruits and vegetables in your system. And I know this sounds, for the normal person listening, they're going, man, he's just talking about plain Jane things. Yeah, plain foods, not supplements, foods, not processed foods. Actual foods are your best source all the time. And if it's in a box, it's not as good. If you can pick it up and you can eat it right out of the ground or right off a tree, those are your best sources of food intake. And they're going to help you recover tremendously, because they're going to contain more of the natural nutrients and vitamins that you're going to need for your building blocks for your cells to perform better.
So now that we've talked about if our performance is on the wane, how do we do the prevention? Because and I'm going to hit, like, there's been a lot of research recently around, omega 3s versus 6 for concussion prevention, or like there's a lot of new things that have come out in the last couple of years. What are some of the things for us to consider to avoid injury, or to help our athletes avoid injury?
I think one of the big areas that everyone can improve on is their gut health. The gut health, your body's immune system and your body's natural defense system really starts in your gut. And if it's not functioning very well, that's something you need to work on, because that's going to help your entire system. Because if it's not digesting your foods properly, if you're not getting the most out of what you're eating, that's going to be an issue. So doing prebiotics or probiotics, or eating foods that help that, nuts, sauerkrauts, stuff that has already built in probiotics or prebiotics in them, is a great way. You really have to do research. And I say this, as a form, you can't just take what the quote unquote experts say. If I say something on this show, you should fact check it. Go look, do your own research, and look at a variety of sources. Don't just think of the first thing that pops up on your search engine. Don't think that that's the best. No, that's the one that was paid for the most. That's the one that's going to pop up. Go down and look and dive in and find out things. But we talked about it, doing a test, doing a blood test to find out what you're deficient in. Those are important ways. But like I said, the gut, it all starts in the gut. And if you're not feeding that gut properly, you're going to have some issues.
And I couldn't agree more. You talked about fermented food, folks. If you're listening to this at home, there are plenty of foods that are fermented or yogurts or things that have live cultures that can help our gut microbiome. And it doesn't matter what we eat if we're not able to extract the nutrition from it because our gut is unhealthy. And that applies whether you're an athlete or not. So that's always a really good place. And I want to highlight something that was said also. Sleep is so incredibly important to recovery. If you're not sleeping, performance is going to be impacted, whether you're just going to work, having a regular life, or whether you're a competitive athlete. I really want to take a pause here because we're getting close to commercial break and ask, how can people reach out to you? How can they learn more if they're hearing this and they want to say, hey, look, I want to get in touch with Brian. I really like what he has to say. I'd like to learn more. How can people reach out to you, Brian?
Well, from a personal standpoint, on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, at Coach Fetz is one way. Our company, Iron Faith Nutrition, you can go to ironfaithnutrition.com, or if you wanted to know more about on the mental side of things, another company is Optimal Sports. That both are easy ways, and through those links you can get a hold of me. Like I said, social media is one way. I'm probably not as active posting on social media as most people, but it's one way you can direct message and get a hold of me that way too.
Perfect. Thank you so much for bringing your expertise today and sharing your insights. And folks, if you are at home listening to this, today's the day to eat the rainbow. Focus on, am I getting enough protein? Am I getting what my body needs? And if you're unsure, get tested so that you can supplement or change your diet in the way that's going to optimize your performance. We do have to take a brief break, but we will be right back after these messages.